Hey, what's up guys? It's Ivan back in with another video. This is going to be the first video of a new playlist I'm going to call Storytime with Ivan. And I laugh about this one because it comes from a friend of mine called Jesse. Shout out to you, Jesse, for this one. But yeah, so this series is going to be basically me sitting down and talking about my experience with, I guess, the iron game, the lifting game. So in this the first episode is going to be about how I got into training in the first place, with weights. So the question that kind of sparked this video was the question, when people ask you how long have you been lifting, how long have you been training. Generally I say 5 years, because I kind of started when I was 25 when I bought my first, gym setup, which is behind me here. Still have the original one. But really, I started training way back before that. So when I was 10 years old, I started playing basketball. Even before that, I was watching my brother play basketball and soccer and whatnot. And so I've kind of always been active, sitting on the sidelines, watching my brother play basketball with his friends and hoping I could, get a call up and start playing. But basically I started playing club basketball, organized basketball at the age of 11 and a half, I think it was. Or I think it was 11. I was under 12s basically. So that's when I started playing basketball, and I was exposed to organized training, running, push-ups, sit-ups, all that sort of stuff. And it wasn't until probably the age of 17, 18, my first year of uni, that I decided to kind of join up the gym, with the gym and kind of learn the ropes. The initial motivation was always to jump high, to play basketball a little bit better, to be more athletic. It was never, to get big arms and to, have tighter fitting shirts and pick up chicks. It was never about that. For me, it was about just playing better basketball. I always had aspirations to, play professionally, and that's why I started training. So I rocked up to my first gym when I was 18 years old, walked through the front doors and went to the counter without even knowing what the whole thing was about. In Australia, if you're from America, if you're from the States, we don't have the same organization for sports. So I know a lot of you guys out there are introduced to barbells quite early in your sporting career. It was never part of our curriculum, to do weights. I played, the highest level I ever played basketball here was basically Division II amateur league in my state. And I was not a star, I was kind of a bench warmer even there. So, I guess you could say that, if there was anything in the system here in Australia, I would have been exposed to some sort of weight training, even at that level, but it was never introduced to me. It was all about very much, learning the game, learning the IQ of the game, I guess, learning how to play. I guess it's very much a European style basketball out here, Every man on the court's a threat, blah, 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 blah. Whereas in the NBA, you got guys running around who are just basically physical specimens who are just there to set screens and rebound and whatnot. And so, I don't know, if you're playing at a top level here in Australia, you know how to play basketball basically. Just a rebounder or a defensive guy. You can generally shoot and whatever. Well, more rounded guys out here and also in Europe. But anyway, I digress. So anyway, I joined up the gym to kind of learn how to lift some weights, because I heard, there was a good carryover between squats and jumping, deadlifting and jumping and whatever, and I really wanted to kind of run faster and jump high. So I walked through the front doors of this gym, walked up, the lady said, "What do you want?" I said, "I want to join up. Do you want a personal trainer?" "Yes, I do." And they gave me some guy who I think once upon a time did play basketball, so he kind of had that rapport with me. He had me, I remember the first exercise we ever did was jumping squats in the squat rack. And he was teaching me how to, quarter squat. And then from that position kind of explode up and then do a little hop at the top. That sort of training session kind of burnt into my skull, of the first kind of experience with a barbell. And then soon after that, he taught me how to, deadlift and whatever. And I'm very grateful for that, because, he did stress to me the importance of good technique and how you can snap your shit up if you don't, behave, respect the weights. So anyway, that was kind of the first exposure to weightlifting. I was 18 years old. I learned how to squat, I learned how to deadlift. Not much upper body stuff at all. It was just purely, trying to get higher in the jump. And then a couple of years after that, it was in my third year of uni that I realized this basketball thing wasn't going to happen. I realized that guys ahead of me were a lot better than me, a lot bigger than me, had more, experience playing state level basketball, and were just better than me. And I just kind of thought, well, at 20 years old, if no one's heard about me, what are the chances of me making a name for myself? So I kind of basically called the coach up that day. I think it was a Wednesday. We had a training session. I said to him, look, man, I'm not going to rock up. I'm going to concentrate on my studies. I'm going to try and get a position, a good position at a hospital. So the third year, the final year of my nursing degree, I kind of focused on that. And so I moved away from basketball altogether. And during that process, I kind of continued training in the gym. I didn't really know what to do with myself physically. Basketball was a big part of my life. I played it, like I said to you, from the age of 11. And so taking that away from me, I was kind of like, what do I do now? Like, I've got all this ambition to kind of play, or to train, but don't know what to do. So anyway, for the next sort of, 5 years, between 20 and 25, I was going to the gym, listening to the dudes at the gym talk about, what the right way of training was. And I quickly learned that there was, the big guys in the gym who were just getting a pump, and then other guys who were skinny but lifting more than them. And I guess that was my first experience with, steroids. Like, I had no idea, initially it never really occurred to me that to get really, really big you needed steroids. I always thought, man, that guy's a hard worker, he's just done a shit ton of reps and he's really dedicated. At one point died, but over the years I kind of realized no matter what you do as a natural athlete, you can't get that big. I certainly had exposure to guys who were, kind of almost offering me the stuff, because they saw, a kid who was, keen to get bigger and, keen to get stronger and stuff. But at that time, between 20 and 25, I didn't really deadlift at all. I think I still squatted, although I didn't have the mobility. A lot of you guys think that I was a natural ass-to-grass squatter. Far from it. Basketball completely ruins you, mobility-wise, flexibility-wise, all the jumping, all the ankle sprains, tight hips and all that. Like, it's just basically impossible for a basketball player to squat, because, no one really gives a shit about how deep you squat. It's all about jumping, running and all that. Although it probably would have been a lot more helpful for me if I actually cared, to do that shit. But, anyway, for those 5 years, I just, did, the bro split, the popular bro split, arm day, leg day, chest day, back day, all that sort of shit. And, I had some pretty good experiences. I got, a lot bigger in that period. I stopped kind of running, stopped doing a lot of the cardio that basketball calls for. And, I got a little bit bigger. I went from, 70 kilos to about 80, 85 in that 5 year span. Although, I'd lie to you if all of that was muscle. I'm not claiming that at all. There was a bit of, fat involved. And then I kind of got sick of the whole gym life, and a friend of mine was saying how cheap it was to buy a squat rack and weights. And at the time, I never really knew about how much this stuff sort of cost. I never really, looked up prices of barbells, plates, and all that sort of shit. So at that time, I was kind of just doing pull-ups, push-ups, squats, and so I wasn't really doing any of the machine work. I think first part of the 5 year, between 20 and 25, I did a bit of machine work, but I kind of realized that in order for you to be athletic, you need to kind of stay away from the machines, from the supporting nature of machines. You kind of need to be your own stabilizer in free space. So I did most of my work in the squat rack, and then this friend said to me, look, why don't you just buy your own shit and have it at home? You can train anytime. So then, I started looking into how much this stuff cost, and for about, I think it was at the time, the initial stuff that I bought, it was around $3,000. I bought everything that I needed. Squat rack, barbell, the weights that I needed at the time, bench, all that sort of stuff. And I started training. Initially, that was when I turned 25. Initially, I didn't really know what I was doing. I was just kind of, go until exhaustion, and when I've had enough, kind of go back in the house. And then basically I started doing some research, because obviously my progress kind of, I wasn't going anywhere. And my first program, just 1 second, I'll get my training log, I'll tell you exactly. So yeah, here we go. My first training plan was the Texas Method, and I started it in December 2015, so 5 years ago. And I've got the template here. So basically 3 days split. Monday was volume day, Wednesday was the development day, recovery day, and then Friday was the maximum day. And the exercises that I did were squats, and then I alternated between bench press and overhead press, and then deficit deadlifts for the third exercise. And then yeah, I'll alternate between glute ham raise and deadlift. It was just funny kind of looking at the first program. So yeah, 2015 was kind of when I started getting serious. I started writing all my stuff down. You know, I've got it all, you know, I'm kind of sort of halfway, or more than halfway, probably 2/3 through a logbook. And so that's 5 years in the making. And yeah, that's when I started getting serious with training. So when people say to you, how long have you been training? I'm not going to say, you know, since 10 years old, because, you know, I wasn't really training for this sort of shit before. But then again, I wasn't sitting on the couch playing video games, you know, my whole life until 25. So it's kind of like a tricky question. You know, I've been telling people since, you know, 5 years ago, but it's clearly, you know, longer than that. I had some athletic background. So anyway, that's my background, basketball player. And then picked up weights at basically 17, 18 years old, messed around until 25, got serious at 25, and then started learning how to properly lift and how to properly, you know, plan my training. So after that sort of year, when I turned 25, I went through many different programs. I mean, it's a whole logbook of shit here. The first sort of literature that I was exposed to was obviously the Western stuff, you know, Texas Method, you know, 5x5, starting strength, all that. So I bought Rippetoe's books and I read a lot of Rippetoe. Rippetoe had a lot of impact on me initially. What made me deviate away from Rippetoe stuff was basically the Eastern methodologies. When I first bumped into work from the Eastern guys, you know, Pavel Tsatsouline definitely, and then the West Side guys as well. Like, you know, I thought to myself, you know, this is not the only way of training. And then, you know, for the following couple of years until now, I've been kind of basically oscillating between the two philosophies, West versus East. Now I'm definitely, as you can see from training every day, squatting every day, you probably know that I'm kind of leaning towards Eastern methodologies of training. And in all of that, it's kind of very difficult to work out what's what, because at the end of the day, you know, the drugs completely ruins the sport, You know, you could download the Small Love Junior bench program and start doing that and not get results, and then you're like, you know, what's going on? So you got no idea the people that wrote this, was that for natural athletes, was that for juiced athletes? So my frustration over the years was always, you know, you see these dudes on YouTube, you see these guys in the net, you know, claiming that this program was the best, that program was, but you don't really know what the supplementation was behind all of that. Because obviously a natural athlete, an everyday bloke, doesn't have the same androgens as some of these juiced up guys. So I went from, you know, doing one squat session a week where I'd absolutely murdered myself, do so much volume that I couldn't, you know, take a shit the following day, to now where I've kind of just like basically, you know, go through the groove basically every single day without busting my balls every workout. Because I don't know about you guys, but when you're training the volume stuff, like the Western stuff where you're killing yourself, the bodybuilding kind of stuff, it's just, your life is miserable, man. You're so irritable, you're sore, you can't freaking sleep, you can't walk. Lactic acid, you know, it's not a fun thing to have. You know, people always say, oh, it's a sign of a good workout. That's a complete fucking myth, man. Like, you can't rely on metabolic, you know, acidosis for an indicator for a good workout. And that was a big learning point for me, to realize that you don't need to be sore as fuck to have, you know, to have the knowledge that you've worked out well. You know, that for me was a paradigm shift. When I worked out that you don't have to be sore. And that's when I kind of started getting more attracted to the Eastern stuff. You know, I read the book, I've made a video about this, you know, Power to the People by Pavel Tsatsouline. And that by far the best book I've ever read. Highly recommend that book. That book basically, you know, spoke about the nervous system role in all of this, which You know, you listen to Mark Ripperto, you listen to some of the, other guys, they never spoke about that. They just spoke about, physical growth, getting bigger, getting stronger. Whereas power to the people, Tsutsoulan, he talked about staying the same size and getting stronger. His background was, teaching people in the military how to get stronger. And so one of the stories he said was, these guys have to go to the field, say Middle East, Iraq or something, and they might be without food for a long period of time. If he's a bodybuilder guy, 100 kilos, he's gonna have to freaking eat. Whereas a skinny guy, if you can retain the small frame, that guy has a less of a requirement for a big intake, right? So these people last better. It's just better. Who the fuck wants to wake up in the middle of the night to eat? And some of these guys do that, the big dudes. So that kind of attracted me because I've never been a fan of eating 50 meals a day. That's never been kind of my gig. Although I did the bro split earlier in my training career, I never really liked the idea of forcing food down, forcing milkshakes down. I just hated that idea, man. It's just, you're always nauseated, you're always forcing. So that's why, I kind of gravitate to the, the Eastern stuff. More so the kind of weightlifting programs where these guys have weight classes, they want to stay in a lower weight division and yet still have the maximum performance. That's where I'm at right now mentally. That's what I want. I'm not after mass. I'm not after anything like that. I just want to get stronger, and also, be healthier. If you're 120 kilos, my height at 6 foot, that's not healthy, right? The body doesn't really care whether it's muscle or it's fat. Additional weight is not good for the cardiovascular system. You can't walk upstairs. Doesn't matter like if you have fat tissue or muscle tissue. So basically, the long story short, the East philosophy is what I'm attracted to right now. The nervous sort of training. Another guy which had an impact on me was Matt Perryman. I think that book was also called Squat Every Day. Excellent book. It's an ebook. Definitely recommend that as well. But that's me. So I'm 31 now. I'm 31 now next week. And you know what I'm capable of in the gym. Nothing crazy. But I feel like another part of training is working the shit out for yourself. So without having a logbook, you can't really track your progress. You can't really plan your progress. So over the years, I've kind of worked out what works, what doesn't. You see through the shit per se. So if you're on a training program, and you don't really get results, and you give it a good go, you give it at least 12 weeks, and you're like, man, something's up here. Over the years, I've kind of worked out that some of these programs are just basically for juices, or you need to eat a crazy amount of food, which for me defeats the point, man. Like if you've added 10-15 kilos of body weight and you've added 20 kilos to your squat, what have you gained? Do you know what I mean? Like we know big people are stronger. Is your training doing anything then? If you've only added, 2 kilos per body weight of gain? If you've gained 1 kilo and you put 2 kilos on the barbell, I don't know, man. Eddie Hall lifted half a ton. That's fantastic, but how much did he weigh? I don't get excited about that shit at all. Like, the guy's basically has a 2 times body weight deadlift. And he's there on a respirator after the lift. He's probably on a shit ton of cardiac meds. It's probably. Sorry, I got a phone call. But yeah, Eddie Hall probably is a really unhealthy fella. Despite his world record deadlift, it's still not impressive to me. He's got a 2 times body weight deadlift. He probably weighed 200 kilos at that time, or whatever, 180 kilos. It's just whatever. I don't know. Each to their own, I guess. For me, health is number one. I work in the industry. I see the effects of some of these guys who are roided up to their balls, and just it's not good, man. It's not good. I'd rather stay the same body weight. I'm 91.5 kilos now. I always wanted to that. I don't want to get bigger. I want to get stronger, right? So that's my thing, and that's why I kind of gravitate towards the Eastern methodologies. Although they were on drugs as well. I'm not saying the East is freaking clean. They're all on drugs as well. But conjunction with everyday training, no metabolic acidosis. You're probably calmer every day because you don't have the DOMs after one squat session a week. I train every day. I'm never freaking sore, which is which is the best thing about training every day. You never freaking sore. You never freaking sore, number one. And number two, you're practicing lifts all the time, right? And if you're not going to get massive, your nervous system is going to have to make up for the strength gains, right? So if you're relying on the nervous system to increase your strength, you better be training every day, because the nervous system will degrade very, very quickly. I think Pavel Tsolin said within 2 days, if you haven't touched the barbell in the same lift, in the same plane of motion, the degradation starts happening. So really, you should be, at worst, training every second day. I train every day. I very much squat every day. So yeah, I'm a nervous system over size. But yeah, 5 years in, well, this is probably my 6th year now. 6 years in, and loving it, man. I love the psychological aspect of training as well, trying to work this shit out, writing all my shit down in the training log, trying to work out exactly what I need, what I don't need. And that brings me to the next point. I'm a minimalist, right? I believe in practicing or what you need. I don't like variation. I don't like doing 50 different forms of movement for, to get stronger. That to me makes more sense if you are trying to put on weight and you're trying to kind of smash the muscle, break the muscle down, and for the muscle to get bigger. It makes more sense to hit it from different targets. But if you're like me and you're nervous, you're trying to train your nervous system, then I think it makes more sense for you to just pick, one movement that you really want to get good at. In powerlifting, it's 3 movements, right? And you just keep gunning that down. And then you just basically monitor what the imbalances are going to form. Making sure the shoulder girdle and the hip girdle are balanced. If you feel pain comes, like I've had trouble with in the last couple of days, then you address that. You stretch or you attack the antagonist of that movement and whatever. But generally speaking, these compound movements are compound, right? They're whole body movements. So there should be less imbalancing than, I guess, single joint movements. So yeah. Minimalism is my thing. I'm a nervous system guy. I like training every day. And that's basically, after 6 years, that's what I've kind of, precipitated training to. I've learned a lot, and I'm probably going to learn a lot more in the future. But if this helps anybody out there, it's worth one view. So anyway, guys. So that was Story Time with Ivan, episode number 1. If you like this sort of content, give it a like. If you haven't already, subscribe. That's what YouTubers say usually. But yeah, I'm going to try and get some more of these videos out. If you have any ideas about what you'd like for me to talk about, leave them in the comments. I've got some ideas what I want to cover. But yeah, I think it offsets some of the training videos nicely, because squatting every day, I just squat every day and I don't do a whole lot of talking. But this is going to be a long video. I can already kind of see the number up there. It's pretty long. But anyway, until next time, guys. Cheers.